How's it going, everyone? Swanee here, and for today's video, I wanted to try something new. Now, I haven't been making very many news-type videos as of late, and honestly, that's just because most days there's only maybe 1 to 2 new bits of new information that comes out. So in my opinion, there normally just isn't enough news at a given time to justify making daily news update videos. And I don't want to go down the route of clickbaiting you into a 10-minute video where I title it, "Oh my god, this is insane, I can't believe the dev said this," you know, anytime a dev farts, and then I just read community comments and Reddit posts for 8 minutes and call it a day. So I'm going to try to steer away from doing that, and I still want to cover news, so I want to try out doing weekly news like roundups. Now, obviously if there's a big news story, I'll still try to cover that the day of, but for the most part, I'm just going to try to put everything from the past week into just one video on Saturdays. So if this is something that you're interested in, let me know down in the comments and let me know your feedback on today's video. And if you guys like this, I'll be sure to make more of them in the future. Then as always, for your convenience, there will be timestamps down in the description down below. That way, if you want to skip ahead to something or skip ahead to the latest bit of information, you can easily do so. And with that said, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So to start things off, the first thing that happened this week in Helldivers 2 was right after the anniversary event. So if you didn't know, they had this big post on social media where if you responded F in the chat, if they got enough people to respond F, then they were going to give us this additional cape, and that is exactly what happened. They said, "Democracy has never been managed so beautifully. Well done, Helldivers. In honor of your successful commemoration of the first year of the Second Galactic War, and in your service in the meeting of the designated respect quota, High Command has awarded you all the Emblem of Freedom Cape. F for Freedom, Helldivers." And this was unlocked for everybody, and if for some reason you haven't played this past week, the next time you log in, you will get this cape for free. Then as for the second bit of new information to come out this week, we have this post from Dark Horse Direct, who announced a new collaboration event going on with Helldivers 2. They said, "Attention Helldivers, we're teaming up with PlayStation and Arrowhead to bring you Helldivers 2 collectibles celebrating the heroic actions of Super Earth's finest. Enlist in our newsletter today and let us know what collectibles you want to see." So this is definitely pretty cool to see. There's going to be new ways to get more merch for Helldivers 2. This is something a lot of people have been asking for, and there's pretty high demand for it, honestly. I know Sony has a couple things on their store where they sell like the Helldiver statue and stuff, and those things sell like wildfire. I know there's the new PlayStation controller for Helldivers, and there's just tons of people wanting to buy different merch for Helldivers. So if you like to buy video game collectibles, or if you just want to buy something new for Helldivers, definitely keep an eye on this space going forward in the future. So up next, there was actually 2 different patches that went live earlier this week. This second patch was really small, and it was literally just a couple fixes for some crash issues. So hopefully if you were experiencing some crashing, that is no longer the case, and that is now fixed. But the update prior to that was about some balancing changes for the latest war bond, and with that came a little bit of controversy that we'll get into. But first, let's go over the patch changes. Patch 0.1.002.103. For the overview, they said it's been an interesting week with a patch that had a few unexpected slip-ups. After testing and balancing, the wrong versions of some files of our new Warbond items were shipped, which wasn't part of the plan. Misaligned scopes also made an unwelcome return, albeit in a new form. Some bugs really are persistent, aren't they? So we even double-checked the scale of the LAS-16 sickle just to be sure. The key points for this patch was that the LAS-17 double-edged sickle was meant to start with light armor penetration and build up to medium as more heat built up, but it launched with medium armor penetration right away, even with 0 heat. And then the GP-31 Ultimatum also gained extra ammo from the previously a bug but now a feature siege-ready armor passive, and we feel that this specific combination is too strong. They said, "We're huge fans of big booms booming big, so we didn't want to make the weapon less satisfying to use. We still want to bring that democratic tears to your eyes every time you use it like it does for us. However, we will be addressing how easy it is to access extra ammunition for it, ensuring it requires a bit more effort to use to the full effect." Then they went on to clarify that it is not our intention to release Warbond items that need immediate balancing, and we understand that any changes we make can invoke strong feelings, We want to assure that we're actively listening to your feedback, and as with any of our previous updates, we'll keep monitoring this situation closely. Your input is invaluable, so please continue to share your thoughts on these changes. We're always open to making further adjustments if needed. And then as for the specific changes for the LAS-17 double-edged sickle, it ended up getting a bit of a nerf and a buff kind of at the same time. As you can see here, here's the stats for the old and the new version. With the new version, from 0 to 25% heat, it does AP 255 damage, and it deals 0 damage per second to the players. And then as you continuously heat up the weapon, it will both do more damage to the enemies and more damage to you as the player. And with this newest change, once you get up to 91% heat, it will now do AP 4 damage, which deals 70 damage to the enemies and deals 50 damage per second to the players, plus the fire status effect. And what this means is that now this weapon can basically just take out some heavily armored enemies. For example, if you shoot the Hulks in the eyes, it will take out the Hulks, and now you can burn like the armor off of chargers and stuff. So in my opinion, I think they just made the double-edged sickle even better. I've seen some people complain about this, saying that it's a nerf, and in my opinion, I don't think it's a nerf in any way, shape, or form here. The only thing that got nerfed was that 0 to 25% heat, and let's be honest, that's like 1 to 2 seconds of you firing the weapon. So in the first 1 to 2 seconds, it got a nerf, but then as you hold down the trigger, it ended up getting a buff. And then the starting magazines for the weapon was increased from 1 to 2, and the spare magazines were increased from 2 to 3. So they gave it some additional magazines as well, which is nice. And then for the GP31 Automaton, it did end up getting a nerf, but only in regards to how it gets additional ammo. Basically, the GP31 Ultimatum is no longer influenced by the Hellpod Optimization Booster or the Siege Ready Armor passive. So if you use the Hellpod Optimization Booster, you're not going to immediately spawn in with 2 shots. You're still only going to have 1 shot. So the damage and everything is still the same. It still hits like a truck. You're just not going to be able to have as much ammo for it. And then in this patch, there was a bunch of crash fixes and bug fixes and stuff like that. I know one of the biggest fixes was they fixed a bug where the scope aim center was misaligned with the projectile fire trajectory affecting all weapons, but most noticeable when aiming down sights. This was a huge glitch that made its way back into the game where anytime you aimed in first person, your shots just wouldn't line up with your scopes at all. So that was a pretty big deal. And then obviously with these balancing changes, you're going to see some pushback in the community, and with that, the CEO, Shams Jorjani, was responding to some of that feedback and criticism over on Discord. A lot of people were asking, like, do the weapon fantasies take priority over balancing, and like, why are you nerfing this stuff, and like, you know, what's wrong with you? And Shams responded to this comment saying, it's a balancing act, sometimes we get it wrong, and then we try to course correct. So obviously they're human, they're not going to get things balanced and released 100% perfect. There's only so much testing they can do, which I think a lot of people don't realize. I mean, they're just a small office, and let's say 10 to 20 people do testing. Those 10 to 20 people might all find that the weapon works completely fine. But then when you release the weapon to the masses and you have hundreds of thousands of people testing the weapon, they're going to find a lot more issues than the 10 to 20 to 30 people that they have maybe testing in the office. Then there was another post he responded to that said, please don't start with the weapon nerfs again this year, please. It's going to kill me and this game. And the CEO responded saying, last time, as in during the summer, the big problems with the balance was that it messed up the fantasy. We're very careful to maintain that while tweaking balance. It doesn't mean we'll never reduce the effectiveness of stuff, but that it needs to be done with care and the overall fantasy in mind. Which I definitely agree with the CEO here. Some stuff is definitely going to get released. It's going to be unbalanced, and I think it's okay if they nerf things. It's just as long as they do it for the right reasons. And I think the slight tweaks that we got to the Warbond weapons didn't completely ruin the weapons by any means. So I definitely understand where the CEO is coming from here. Then the CEO was responding to some more just random comments on Discord. This one asks, when are we getting new gameplay content? Nothing new since last year, just fixes and repeat. And he said, big chunky pieces of content take time to build and test, and those happen with less frequency, and we drop other small stuff in between. We can't do an Illuminate launch every month, bro. And I kind of see both sides on this. You know, it does suck when we go like 2 months without getting any new content. Things definitely slow down a bit, and the game kind of gets stale, and then players get frustrated, and you know, wash, rinse, repeat. But based off of all the leaks that we're going to go over here later on in this video, I can definitely tell that they've been cooking and they have some stuff planned in the future. And then speaking of the future, somebody asked about like, hey, when are we going to get a roadmap? And he says, I believe it's being discussed, but some surprises will keep in store. So we might potentially be getting a new roadmap here in the future. And then there's this additional note I wanted to add here, since we're talking about like the patch and developers and stuff responding to people. We had B Vitamin here that works for Arrowhead that was addressing the whole like melee glitch that people thought was going on for a long time. People thought that using the melee attack button works differently than the like trigger attack button when you're using melee weapons. And B Vitamin responded saying, 4 of us have tested that report with all melee weapons and all button inputs with the armor and without. Using debug tools to display damage numbers, it works whether you press the melee button or the attack button. The game doesn't calculate the damage differently regardless of which button is used, but we tested it anyway. Whichever source you use for this info is mistaken. I've been seeing a lot of people talk about this with the melee weapons and using the peak physique armor. There was that huge rumor of using the melee button does more damage, and you know, this obviously appears not to be the case. So for some reason you were worried about that, you don't have to worry. Just use the peak physique armor and use either one of the attack buttons and you'll do the same amount of damage. So up next, let's talk about the destruction of Angel's Venture. Now this was the latest Helldivers 2 event that came to the game. There were a couple posts leading up to this event from Helldivers 2. They said Angel's Venture evacuation warning, destruction imminent. And then there was this big countdown timer that went on for like 24 hours where there was a ton of hype build up and we were just, you know, waiting for it to hit 0. And then once it hit 0, the planet was officially gobbled up by Meridia. And then after the fact, Helldivers 2 tweeted this out saying, signal lost, searching, 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 signal lost. Then if you physically went to the planet, you would see that the planet was completely destroyed, and it looks pretty cool. It definitely got torn to shreds. I guess this is the new place that people are going to visit from now on. We can no longer visit the black hole since it is on the move, and it is currently on its way to Super Earth. And this is going to be the major storyline going forward for the rest of this year, is Meridia is on its way to Super Earth, and all the planets that are in its path have these little exclamation points on it, and it's just going to go from planet to planet, destroying everything in its path, and it is up to us as the Helldivers to try to stop it. Then we had a couple of follow-up posts from Helldivers 2 after the planet was destroyed. They said, breaking, Angel's Venture has been torn apart by the Meridian Singularity. Finally, the Illuminate, hiding behind their mask of intelligence and sophistication, have revealed what they truly want: carnage. The president of Super Earth has announced a galaxy-wide mourning period of 24 hours, which ended up being more like 48 hours because we didn't get any new major orders for 2 days after the fact. And then with this, obviously, there was the failure of the major order, saying Angel's Venture has been torn apart by the gravitational pull of the Meridian Singularity. This is an incalculable loss. The land cultivated by generations, the lives of Super Earth citizens whose evacuation could not be prioritized, the proud pines shading the Democratic Youth Scouts campground, all gone forever, ripped to shreds by savage cosmic forces. Then we have this post from Helldivers 2 showing that the flag was at half-mast for all of the citizens that weren't able to evacuate the planet. Which now brings us to today. As of recording this video, we just got a brand new major order. This is the first new major order that's going to be pushing the story forward. It says, Major Order, Angel's Venture has been torn apart by the Meridian Singularity. Angel's Venture will live on in the terrible vengeance we will claim henceforth against all foes of freedom. For now, it is the Terminids who volunteer to be the receivers of our wrath. The Center of Science on Fenrir 3 is of vital importance to stopping the Meridian Singularity. The Ministry of Science's top astrophysicists are gathered here, researching both the singularity itself and the dark energy that somehow powers its movement. All Helldivers are ordered to defend Fenrir 3. The Center of Science must not be lost. And then the major order just says that we have to hold Fenrir 3 when the order expires for the next 3 days. And you may be thinking, well, that's not that exciting. We just have to defend a planet. I mean, we just lost a planet and all we have to do is just defend again. I mean, that doesn't sound too cool. Well, today they actually released brand new enemy types. Yes, we are finally dipping our toes into the Gloom after like 6 months of the Gloom finally showing up. They're finally doing something with the Gloom. We got a new dispatch today saying a new Terminid strain likely to have developed inside the Gloom has been encountered near the Center of Science on Fenrir 3. The center's dark energy research is now at critical risk. Scattered reports on the new Terminids indicate discoloration, increased intelligence, and drastic changes to hunting patterns. Information remains scarce as no SEAF units have returned from close encounters. This variant group has been dubbed the Predator strain. And then if you hover over top of Fenrir 3, there is this new Predator strain description. So anytime we have a planet that has these enemy types, we will see this pop up. And it says a Gloom enhanced strain of Terminids have been reported on this planet. SCAF patrols have been lured into ambushes and picked off by unseen assailants. Every ounce of a Helldiver's superior senses will be required to hunt down this dangerous threat. And if you go to this planet, you are going to encounter some new Terminid enemy types. There are now roaming patrols of Predator Stalkers and Predator Hunters, and oh boy are they scary. They are faster than normal Stalkers and Hunters. The Hunters can now go invisible, so now you have to deal with very fast, hard-hitting, invisible Hunters, and Stalkers were already scary by themselves, and now they're even faster and stronger. So if you go into this planet, you are going to be in for some rough combat, because these guys hit hard, and after I post this video, I'm going to be doing a lot of testing, and I'm going to do a live stream of just showcasing off these new enemy types. And as you can see here, there's already been some mixed reactions in the community. People have been asking for the game to get harder, and oh boy, the game definitely got harder here with this new enemy type. There's this comment here in Discord. I saw the Predator strain is awesome. Seeking a pack of hunters lock onto you and then one by one start cloaking. It's nightmare fuel. And then on the opposite side of that coin, you have people complaining about it, saying, what the F are these bugs? I'm dying every 3 seconds. The new update is sucking the fun out of the game. So, you know, obviously people are going to be happy and people are going to be upset. So let me know what you guys think of this new enemy type down in the comment section down below. And then this new enemy type is going to lead me into the final thing I want to talk about in today's video, and it's the most recent leaks. So if you don't want to be spoiled on what is to probably come here in the future, turn away now. I'm going to get into spoilers. I know some people don't want to be spoiled and they want to be surprised, so go away. All right, so for those of you that stuck around, let's get into some of the most recent leaks. So we have Iron Sights here, who is the go-to leaker for Helldivers 2. And with the latest patches that came out earlier this week, they were able to data mine some of the new mission types that we're going to be getting with the Gloom. We have this image here of one of the exclusive missions that involve us going into the Gloom, and it has a Gloom-specific header. And then the description here reads that the Gloom may hold the key to stopping the Illuminate from moving the Meridian Singularity. A scientific expedition is being conducted to this planet at extreme cost and risk. The Helldivers must secure every scrap of useful data on the Gloom. The expedition will focus its efforts on the area inside and around the colonies lost to the Gloom. This will allow the Helldivers to find and repurpose, and then it gets cut off. So it definitely seems like the Gloom is somehow going to be tied into the new Singularity event and us stopping the Illuminate. And then there was this post going over the leaked objectives for the Gloom stuff, like collect Gloom-infused oil, collect Gloom spore readings, and new Gloom towers. So if you want to read the description of each of these new mission types that we're going to be getting, you can pause and read them here. But this is great news because everybody has been wanting new mission types for the longest time, and it looks like we're finally going to be getting some. And then there was this post from Iron Sights going over a couple of new Terminids that got leaked that were going to be showing up in the Gloom, called the Spore Bursts. These are Terminids that are part of the Predator strain, which appear on planets in the Gloom, and when you shoot them, they kind of explode into a big spore, which will stun everything around them. So that's definitely going to be pretty scary. The Terminids are already pretty rough, so having a Terminid that when you kill it, it will stun lock you in place is going to be pretty gnarly, considering all the Terminids like to just hit you back to back to back. And then the last thing in the leaks I wanted to go over from a couple days ago is that he was able to find out new UI to display for a customization menu. So it looks like they're planning on adding weapon customization and stuff. They're adding different silencers and laser sights and different ammo types and different attachments you can have to your barrels and all kinds of different things. So who knows how far away this is going to be, but if this is something they're working on, I feel like this is going to add hours and hours and hours of content with all the different combinations of different attachments you can have on your weapons. I'm sure it's going to affect damage numbers in some ways, and this is going to add even more variety to your loadouts. So this is absolutely huge, and I definitely hope that this comes sooner rather than later. So that is going to do it for everything for this week in Helldivers 2 news. Let me know what you guys think of everything down in the comment section down below. Definitely let me know what you guys think of this video. Do you prefer a weekly news roundup like I'm doing right now, or do you prefer daily news that keeps you kind of up to date as things happen? Any and all feedback is welcome. If you're new here, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell for notifications. That way you don't miss out on any future Helldivers 2 videos. And that is going to do it for me, and I will talk to you all next time.